let's be villains. Like, let's be bad. Like, let's do whatever we want. Like, we don't care about the consequences. Let's get the men we want. Let's break up the marriages. Let's go to the
What? Wait,
company. Let's
wait.
plot and scheme. Like, let's be bad. Like,
Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another video. This is a very special video. I'm starting a new series here where I have candid conversations with a group of Black women and femmes about life, entertainment, pop culture, politics, whatever. I know that y'all get a whole lot of me and my hot takes, but I'm one woman with one particular worldview. I thought it was really important for me to incorporate a diverse array of voices. So that's what this is, tentatively called Black Women's Business. But we'll see. We'll see if that sticks. Before we get into it, I have to say that I am super excited about the launch of the new merch. I have not released new merch in a long time because I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't know if I was ever going to find something I really liked. I like this. It says, "Are y'all okay?" One of my signature catchphrases because y'all are not okay. Nobody is okay. And that is now up. The link to this and the entire merch store is going to be down below. I want to say a couple of things about it. One, why did I launch new merch? I launched new merch because I never want to do another brand deal. I hate them. I don't like to work with corporations. If I am promoting something, I want it to be something that I believe in, something that means something to me. So that is why we're launching merch. There is not going to be 30,000 things because I don't want to encourage y'all to buy useless crap that you're going to wear once. This is actually really well made, high quality. Again, I wanted to get away from the really cheaply made screen printed tees. No shade, but I don't wear that. I wear this. This is literally like my 5th time wearing this particular sweatshirt. And I'm really proud of the fact that I finally gotten to a place where I can distribute things and send things to y'all that are not crappy. So link down below. Thank y'all for the support. We have already sold so much merch just from the patrons and the members. So I appreciate it. We're all going to be twinsies this winter with our Y'all Okay merch. Also, this is one of the designs with the sweatshirts and the matching sweatpants. And we are also releasing I'm Great. Thank you so much for asking. Journals and stickers and patches and pins. Those are our 2 designs for fall 2022. We are sunsetting this merch, so it's not going to be available forever. And then after this is done, we will launch 2 new designs. That's it. Again, thank y'all so much. I just have been overwhelmed by people who have just been like, yeah, I'll buy that. That means a lot to me. I'm a big merch buyer, so I get it. There's a connection. All right, let's go ahead and talk about why we're here. Over on the other channel, I talk about all kinds of things, including relationships and more specifically Black love. And one of my more controversial recent hot takes was saying that all Black love is struggle love. You've probably heard that before if you're on the Black woman side of the internet, but I don't mean it that way. What I actually mean is that because we are constantly enduring all of these structural forces that are pushing against us, racism, classism, elitism, homophobia, transphobia, misogynoir, that anytime 2 Black people are trying to come together in a romantic way, in a family, in a friendship, there's gonna be a little bit of tension. And we're gonna have to commit, if we want something that is healthy and long lasting, to enduring a little bit of hardship. There was a lot of pushback. People didn't like that. They weren't into that. When I was thinking about that particular conversation, toward the end of it, I had an epiphany about, wait, are Black women actually too averse to any kind of struggle in our relationships with men? It's self-preservation. The Afro-pessimist in me would say you're right, Kim, but the abolitionist in me says the struggles that come with true love aren't inherently bad. They're just part of the journey to fulfillment. Maybe. I mean, people say that the problem with our generation, the problem with, the millennials like me and younger is we want to avoid all struggles. That we are trying to do our best to not encounter any hardship, any conflict, any difficulty, any struggles, right? Like in our desire to not be our parents, to not be our foremothers who felt like struggle was their birthright, that maybe we've gone all the way to the other end of the spectrum in a manner that is not healthy, that maybe only leads to alienation. Now, this is a deep, kind of philosophical conversation, but I'm actually open to having that discussion too. Okay, that is me there. Look, all happy, healthy relationships take work. I know I've been to therapy with my family. I get frustrated with my nieces. I say I need to take a little break. But I always return and say this connection is important, so we're going to figure it out. And am I potentially missing out on something really incredible and fruitful and potentially edifying if I say I'm never going to experience any mental stress or strain when I'm trying to build something with a man? I don't know, but we're going to talk about it. Let's get to the panel. Hey, you guys. First of all, thank y'all so much for joining me. Before we really get into it, I would love for y'all to introduce yourselves. So take it away, Deasia.
Hi, my name is Deasia Session. I'm from Rochester, New York. My pronouns are she, her. I am a single straight woman.
Hi, I'm Keena Jones. I am originally from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but I am actually a grad student in LA now. So, probably gonna be crying into a phone talking about how hard it is dating in LA soon. Um, my pronouns are she, her, and how I identify is pan, questioning. So, definitely not straight.
Hi everyone, my name is Busisiwe Mbali Kabane, but for all the people in the world, you can call me B, the way that Beyonce's loved ones called her. But I'm from South Africa, I'm a doctor, and I'm happy to be here. Hey.
Hey y'all, my name is Christina. My pronouns are she, they. I am partnered with a cisgendered heterosexual man, but I am a cisgendered queer woman.
All right. Thank y'all again so much. I am super excited for this conversation. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. How much struggle is too much, right? Like, how much are you personally willing to go through in a relationship? And when do you know when it's right to call it quits?
As a single mom that is established, I am not willing to deal with too much. As in, I have the standard. I have my place, my car, my daughter's taken care of. We are doing fine. So if you are not established in certain ways, like if you don't know where you're going in life, if you love cheating, it is a hobby in your spare time, if there's too much going on and you just don't know where you're going, that is not something that I'm willing to deal with at all.
Go
To
ahead.
answer that question for myself, I do think like if you were to ask my friends, I would definitely think that I'm the woman that is like no, he blinked wrong, so no, goodbye. Like I think that's how my friends would describe me. I don't think that I have too high standards, but I do think that I feel like you mentioned a point when, in the introduction about this idea of uh, are we missing out on something? I think that I may be someone who is perpetually single just because I think that I just if it if it disrupts who I am, if being in a relationship disrupts like my personal identity, I think I'm not willing to compromise on that. So that's where I am.
Just in general, I think my experiences with dating, especially in my early 20s, was very much kind of like I don't have boundaries. I don't have, I will be more open to be putting up with like mess and stuff like that. And the older I've gotten I think this may be the more wiser I've gotten. It's just like, yeah, I don't want struggle love. I don't want to deal with that anymore.
Ooh, we already have some good stuff here. My Initial question feels like if you meet somebody and you feel like this person is going to bring so much to me, things that I just would not be able to find on my own or experience on my own, or something that I definitely am not going to be able to experience elsewhere, would you be willing to put up with more? Would you be willing to work with them more?
It's a great question. Like I was on a date today, which was kind of like tentative and I don't know, but um I think for me, like from childhood, I've been someone who has I'm like the fixer. I do what I need to do. Like I'm the achiever. I went to college. I went to university. I'm a doctor. Like everybody's happy, but it's like I'm only now at like in my late 20s, like trying to figure out these questions and the answers to them. But like to be honest, I don't know. Like realistically, if I can even look back at like my romantic history and be like, how many times have I actually been in love? Like real love, like movie scene kind of like I've been maybe like two times or like once, and I'm 29 and people are saying I need to be getting married, I need to have children, I need to get my shit together.
First of all, I think being in love 2 times at 29 is normal, right? That's a lot. That's a good number.
Girl, really?
Yes.
Like the fairy tale timeline?
Like,
Are
okay,
we
wait. Like
okay?
true love where it's like you love them, they love you, it's mutual, y'all are in it together twice at 29. That feels normal. Okay, wait. Everybody else, how many times? How old are you and how many times have you been in love?
I'm 26 and I've been in love twice. And one of them was like puppy love when I was 14. And then the other one was my daughter's father when I was 19. And yeah, I personally feel like that's pretty normal. I feel like we have a lot of like puppy love stuff that goes on between the ages of 13 to 18. But once you like grow and you've been with somebody for like 2 years or 3 years, you're like, oh, wait, I actually really love this person. Like, I'm willing to go far with this person, marry them, go down the line with them. I think it's normal, but maybe I don't know. I also am perpetually single, so I could be completely wrong on that one.
So I'll go next because I think this is a good, interesting point. I would say I've never been in love, and I'm 29. Yeah. This is also, I've never even had a boyfriend. I've never been in a relationship. Um, I'm mostly like hetero presenting, like hetero passing. Like people don't know that I would date other people, and I've never had the opportunity to date other genders yet. I'm still in that questioning part of my identity, but I never had a serious relationship, and so I think that's kind of like has very informed my identity, and part of why I think like that is because I've witnessed a lot of like awful things around me that I'm like, oh no, thank you. If that's what love is, you can keep
Right.
that right over there.
Can I ask, is that something that you want, even though you've never experienced it?
Honestly, at this point in my life, I can take it or leave it. It's
Right.
like
Okay.
if I never get to go, I don't know.
Like to be
I don't know.
loved, like the thing of the fairy tales and the
Well,
movies. Like
yeah,
you like die and never experience it.
and I'll be all right. Like I actually don't believe in like fairy tale love. Like I think that is like something that is taught to us through capitalism and commercialism and patriarchy, and I think that is not what love is. Now I've experienced love. I do think that I experienced love through my family, through my friends, through that. But romantic partnership and love in the sense like I'm in love with a person, that's not something I've experienced.
Do you leave space for the possibility that in 5 years or 10 years you'll feel differently?
I I think that I do, but I also do think that like the way I view love is like it's something that you like you said, it's work. So like right now I'm a PhD student and I want to get my career. So those things are also other work that I do. And so in the priority list, like the things on my checklist or on my goal plan for 5 to 10 years, love is at the bottom.
That's real. Christina, we never got to you. How many times have you been in love?
Okay, so I'm kind of like with Deasia. Like, I don't know if I want to count my high school relationships. Like,
I
I
feel like that
definitely know, like,
counts.
does that count? Okay, so I'm okay. So counting that, I've been in love 4 times in my life.
Ooh, you're doing good.
I'm someone, and I was going to say, like, I am someone that loves love. Like, I don't think it's ever been something to where I feel like it's an extreme like priority, because for me, like, family, friends, community, like, that is, I that type of platonic love like has like fed me in ways that sometimes I don't know if romantic love can, or has, just for me personally. But I will say that, yeah, as someone who loves love and someone who is like, I just eat all that shit up, the whole like the romance, the love, the like even just the feeling that you get when you are falling in love with someone. Yeah, that's that's me.
And how long did you say you've been with your current partner?
3.5 years.
Okay, so you're in it.
I'm in
It's
deep.
like,
I'm in deep.
is marriage a thing that you think about?
You know, yes and no. I had a really, I wouldn't say interesting, but different kind of like upbringing. Like, my mother was the one that was like, both of my parents are married, but my mother was like kind of like the breadwinner for a really long time. I'm born to older parents. They're like 60 and 80 respectively. And my mother, when she had me, she had just gotten her master's degree in social work, and was like launching off her career. And my father decided to like stay at home. And so I remember seeing that dynamic and being like, oh, that's what I want. Like, I want to be like my mama, who like gets up and gets all pretty and dresses nice. And like, I want to be that career woman. Like, I want to be like her. And so, like, marriage wasn't really, I guess, in the forefront of my mind until like I got older, and I would be around friends that were just like, oh, my dream is to be like married and have 2 kids and live in a big house with a white picket fence and a dog. And I'm just like, yeah, that sounds really restrictive. I don't know. So like, there have been moments where I think being in love, where I'm just like, yeah, like, I can see myself marrying. I'm open to that, but it's not, and it hasn't really been a goal of mine. Same with kids too. I'm just like, I'm kind of just, if it happens, like, it happens, but if it doesn't, it's not gonna be the end of the world.
What was the age gap between your parents?
20
Okay.
years.
Now, this is interesting to me because, as a career lady, I like to look around and see, okay, if I'm going to do this, let's try to find some models for things that actually work. And I remember maybe when I was in college, sitting Ursula Burns, who used to be the CEO of Xerox. She came to talk to the Black women in undergrad, and she said her partner was essential to her being able to fulfill her potential in her career, and her partner was 25 years older than her. So by the time she was getting the apex, he was like, I'm done working. I'm not trying to do that anymore. And I thought it was interesting that you said that, because it mirrored what I'd heard somebody else say about what enabled her to succeed in the workplace.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've never, yeah, like, I think obviously being born to like older parents, like, that's not a shared experience. So it can sometimes be isolating. But I also think whenever I talk about the dynamic between my parents, was very much like, my mama still talks to this day. She's just like, he really supported me, like, going to school and like launching my career. And he was okay with like being a stay-at-home dad, and like, being that, for me at that time, while my mother had a really like hectic, schedule and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think yeah, that has really like shaped the way that I view my own like identity and like my relationship dynamics. Like I want to be able to have that type of partnership where I feel like, oh, I'm free enough or I feel supported enough to like achieve my own goals and do the things that I want to do. Because if that's not the case, then I need to be single. Like I just need to be kind of like by myself because I don't want it to be a distraction. Like if I'm going to be with someone, I want to feel like I'm supported in the things that I want to do too.
Yeah. So, Kina, you said that you have seen things throughout your life that make you feel like, oh, it's just not worth it. I can totally cop to the fact that a lot of my aversion to participating in any kind of hardship romantically is a trauma response for sure. I own it, you know? I go to therapy. What more do you want from me? B, I'm wondering if there are experiences in your youth or things that you went through the first couple of times that you were in love that inform what you're looking for now? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, it was Disney. It was like Cinderella. It was Beauty and the Beast, but like they didn't look like me. They were not me, but that is literally how, in my, I guess, subconscious mind, I modeled the way I thought love would find me, but it didn't. And I think even the ways that I have found love have been really like not cute, like ugly, like me with just a guy from round the way and we talking. And I'm like, wow, like you're cool, like I like you and we vibe. And that's, I think, the ways that I found love, like in a way that literally has to dismantle all of the ways I was taught. Like none of that served me in any way. Like I had to throw that all out the window.
Okay, so let's talk about how the media we consume informs our ideals, the things that we desire, the things that we pursue in our romantic partnerships, but also how the media that we consume might make us hesitant or averse to participating in romantic partnership. I can start by saying I came of age in peak Tyler Perry film time. As I was in college, Tyler Perry movies were number one at the box office. At one point, Tyler Perry was the preeminent Black filmmaker in Hollywood. Like he was the name. And there is a particular kind of narrative around, I mean, we've been talking about this for a decade now, around how Tyler Perry portrays ambitious women, women with educations, women who demand certain things or are not going to settle for certain things from their partners. And I am rebellious. So I saw that and was like, this is absolutely absurd. And not to say like, oh, I'll show him because I don't know that man, but more to say like this thing that is being painted as the norm, that women who want things, women who are assertive, women who are ambitious are destined to be in these horrible relationships, toxic relationships. Actually, no. Like, as like first sign, I'm out. Like, I'm gone. I don't even want to see the next step. I saw the movie. I know how this is going to end. Like, let me not even. But I certainly have to do a lot of work to be like, we are not archetypes. Like, we are not characters. You're one flawed human trying to connect with another flawed human. And maybe that requires you to go off script. So I'm interested in like, have y'all caught yourself being like, am I afraid of something that I've seen?
I'm an avid like book reader and I love, like I said, I love like romance and stuff. And something that I think really did shape me is not really seeing like black women like black women like falling in love like as a young millennial. Like I can't really think of a lot of TV shows or movies where black women were being treated in a way that was respectful and healthy and authentically loving without having have her change something about herself or alter herself or compromise, you know, her standards or compromise like on her boundaries. And so I think that type of messaging, as even as someone like me who can like peep it and be like, oh yeah, this is clearly written by a man who like hates women. Like sometimes, like even for me, I'm just like, yeah, like is that true? Is that impact, like is that something that I need to like take a deeper look at? Is there something wrong? Is there something going on? But yeah, we don't really get love stories. Black women in films, we don't really get to see that portrayed in media. And so it's just like even we don't even have something to counteract the messaging that we get because there's not a lot of material out there to say otherwise.
So I had like my own little fraudulent love story with my daughter's father. Like we knew each other since we were kids, and he was my next door neighbor, and years and like a decade passed, and then we saw each other and we're like, oh, we grew up, and then we started to like each other. It was cute for 6 months, and then I got pregnant. And seeing like having that transition, when I would tell everybody about it, everybody thought, oh, it was so sweet and you guys are meant to be. And we were not. We are cordial with each other, but we were not meant to be. And it was just like, I was like, maybe I should continue this. Maybe I should work on this because, oh, the love story was great. Like, we loved each other. Our mothers didn't like each other, but they sort of got along. Like, it was nice for a minute. It was great. But having that, and I think I believe I stayed in it because I grew up around like a lot of like Love Jones and Deliver Us from Eva and Breaking All the Rules, where Black women sort of got that happy story in the end, even though they had to like struggle and work through it. And like even Waiting to Exhale, like some of the women got their love story, some of them they had to like let it go. But it's like Black women had to struggle in those movies to get to where they wanted to be at with their partner. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is part of it. Maybe this is normal. So that honestly influenced a lot of the way that I view love. Like, maybe it'll happen in a cute, nice way, or maybe it'll happen in a, well, I don't use the apps, but, for those of us that do, like, maybe it'll happen like that. And it'll be that love story of, oh, yeah, I met him on Tinder and we've been together for 3 years and we have 5 kids. And I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, wait a minute. Like this is real. The Love Jones and Waiting to Exhale era, that definitely took me out.
Media has definitely like informed my perception of love, and I think for me, like I spoke about earlier, it's like kind of been like uh, red flags in some area. I'm just like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that, and kind of like what you talked about, how you kind of get into these ideas of archetypes. So I think that has affected me, definitely in my perception of like love and relationships. But I do think that like based off of like what's been said, it seems like the portrayal that we're missing in media overall, especially when it comes to like um, Black love, is like a more realistic portrayal. I feel like we get the snippet of like double or nothing at the end of the basketball court, but then like what is the work that Monica and Q had to do? Because like after that, tomorrow that he got to break up with his fiance, and then and then they got to tell their mamas, and then and then everybody got to give them the side eye because, and then all the wedding gifts got to be returned because he was getting married in 2 weeks. So like no one's talking about like that, like, and that is something interesting to portray, like that emotional maturity that you need in order to navigate like breaking up with someone.
So let's go ahead and do a little brainstorming session because my instinct series, I'm having trouble naming a popular TV series or movie that ends with a happy love story, healthy, that feels real, that feels attainable. Can y'all name one?
Um, like I think about Molly from like Insecure, who like at the very end, like she was able to find love and get married. But to like Keena's point, like you look at the duration of like Molly's time experiencing like love and heartbreak and like I don't know, navigating all different types of stuff just for her to be able to like end up being married. And so it's like, what is the messaging there that Black women are, they have to go through all these like ups and downs and trials and tribulations in order for them to be able to find the love of their life that they will spend, forever with. Look at everything that she had to go through. And what is, I I don't know if that's what I really consider love.
Okay, my first thought is I don't think that I think most people have to experience some degree of failure, growing pains, stress, figuring it out in order to find their forever partner, their long term partner, their boyfriend, their spouse. I don't think that that is specific to Black women. And I'm almost feeling like, I think when we're talking about Molly on Insecure, for example, before she got with Torian, yeah, there were a lot of duds. She was going through the duds because most people are duds for you. And it's struggle and figuring it out, and oh, this is where my boundaries are, and oh, I'm not going to do that again. Like, I feel like that seems normal. Is that not normal?
Yes, it's I think so. I think what matters, like, is that because you're right, it is like, at least for me, like, okay, so I've been with my partner for 3.5 years. And like, one of the things that both of us realize is like every day we kind of have to like make like a commitment to like understanding and like loving each other, because that just doesn't like, it's not going to like fall down from like thin air. Like there is actually like work that has to be done. And at any point in time, we're not feeling something, or someone's not being heard or seen or cared for, their needs aren't being met, like that's usually when like the difficult stuff has to happen, where it might be uncomfortable conversations, or you're hearing something that you don't want to hear, or saying something that you don't want to say. Like I think that is very much normal. I don't know if I like the way that it's portrayed in media. Like there's not like this, I guess maybe because I'm not seeing that balance of like, okay, like Molly having, it just seemed like Molly just kept getting like, I don't know, it's just like, can my girl get a break? Like I think throughout the show, that's literally kind of how I was feeling. Like, where's the break? Where is the like self-reflection? Like, where is it to where, and I know doesn't happen in all situations, but where is it where it's just like, yeah, like I'm the problem, like it's me, or, there wasn't a lot of that. And so it just seemed like it just fed into this preconceived notion that women have to struggle in order to find love. But in real life, I think that you do have to have a healthy balance of like figuring things out, having difficult conversations, navigating difficult situations, but also having that softness, having that love, and having that care.
First of all, Molly was the problem. Let's talk about that.
Wait a minute. Okay, yes, but
She was
no.
the
I
problem.
What do you mean by that, B?
Molly was the friend who actually had the more structural power, right? She had the lawyer job. She was successful. She was in LA. She was with the white people. She had the power. Issa was like with NGOs in the ghetto. And I think maybe that sometimes that is the problem, is that we lack that introspection, that inner looking inwards to be like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the drama. Maybe I'm the, you know?
I guess I will say I will say that I probably have a little bit more empathy for Molly. I feel like I'm definitely like, if you're trying to figure like, am I a Molly or a Issa? Like I feel like in a lot of ways I relate to Issa, like nonprofit experiences, like being this just awkward Black girl just trying to navigate life. But I think I there Molly has a special place in my heart because I know a lot of Mollys. I have a writer friend, her name is Minda Honey. She wrote this article called Single Black Women and the Lies About Our Lives. And she talks about how like she was definitely a Molly, like in her 20s and 30s. Like all she did was like focus on her career, focus on like her education, and she didn't really process or think about the relationships or like romantic relationships like in her life. Like that wasn't a priority. And like in the same way that she didn't do that, I feel like Molly, yes, like, well, at the surface level, yes, she looks like she has it all together, very professional. But one of the things I like that the writers did for her character was like they showed like a nuance. Like, yes, this is this Black woman who on the surface seems like she has it all together. she should not be having any issues, not having any problems, but she does because at the end of the day, she's a black, like she's a human, like she is someone who is fucking up, making, mistakes and, just trying to navigate that in the best way that she can.
I heard that, girl. I know that about trying to be successful in one area, but meanwhile, you are a monster in other areas.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
It is. But I sometimes I enjoy seeing like black women as villains, like let us be villains, like let us be bad people.
Yo, yes, I think someone earlier mentioned like Deliver Us from Eva, or maybe that was just in my head. But one of the things I loved so much about Gabrielle Union in that movie was just like, oh my goodness. Like, and I know there are other black women, but just movie just sticks out to me the most of like, oh, there's this woman who is perceived as very unlikable among men, and she's like unashamed about it. She's not trying to, change herself to fit into what men perceive as like attractive or easily digestible. Like she was just herself, and I don't know. I wish we got more of that in media.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like, I love Gabrielle Union's character in that movie. The only thing that makes me mad is that she gets back together with Cool J at the end. I'm like, he
Why?
committed a crime. He should be. We don't believe in prison industrial complex, but what? Like, I that part is the part to me where it all crumbles. It's like, oh no, and then again, it's that perpetuation. It's like she's just this hard woman, but she just needs love, and that'll just. And I'm like, okay.
That's how I knew that I was growing up from loving that, oh, look what she had to go through and da when I was like, wait a minute, this is not that's not good. It's like how um and Baby Boy, I forgot what Taraji P. Henson's character is, but when she got back with Jodie, I'm like, what are we doing here? This is struggle love. All of this is struggle love. Don't like the movie's terrible. Love and basketball. What are we doing here? He wasn't gonna choose you, ma'am. Like I just did not care for it. I'm like, throw it all away. It's not good.
Yeah, there's some like black romance movies that I look back at like now that I'm older and I'm just like, ooh,
Do you guys think you have an example of the love that you want in your life? To personally, there's no one that I know that I'm like, I want that for myself. So I'm like in uncharted territories. Do you guys know someone where you're like, this is me, like I can do this?
I just talked to my like best friend about this. I I look at I have a lot of like friends in my life who are in queer relationships, and I've learned like so much from them. Not to say that I haven't from like hetero relationships, but I think even like in that dynamic, or even if it's like poly or open, like I've learned so much from them and the way that they love their partner or partners, or the way that they show up for one another, or the way that they allow the people in their lives kind of like blank pages to like rediscover themselves and like show up differently. Almost a majority of my life, I've had people like that close to me who I'm just like, yeah, like if I fall in love or if I'm in like a long-term relationship, like I want to be able to like take tips from you all.
The one couple that I had in my family that actually I really loved their love was my aunt and her husband. Um, but they were also like in a different time. And he dated my aunt for like over 10 years and he proposed a couple of times. And she was like, no, I'm not ready yet. And then he proposed again. And when she was finally ready, they got married. The wedding was beautiful. Like they loved each other so much. And it was just beautiful seeing them together. Like they could just sit in a room quiet with each other. They just wanted to be around each other. And I loved their love. In my age group, no. Everybody that I thought had like a nice love story, I was like, oh, wow, that is not going the way I thought it was going. So, my aunt, she would have been in her 70s if she was still with us, but, she is not. And I'm like, that is the love story for back then. But currently, right now, I do not see anything that I want to apply to my life. It just not look good out here.
Yeah, I can say that I know a couple of I know a couple of couples in my family who they seem genuinely happy. They enjoy each other. It seems like a true partnership. but they're not aspirational for me. And I think that's the disconnect where I can say, y'all seem to be having a great time in your marriage. From what we can, I'm not in it. I don't. And I have definitely seen the mutuality. I have seen them show up for each other in different capacities. Yet and still, that is not enough to make me be like, I would want to be there. The dynamics that they're operating in, where they both seem very fulfilled, are not dynamics that I would want, but it works for them and everybody's happy and getting their needs met. But I can't do that. And I think that because I realize I can't, that would not work for me. It makes me feel like, oh, if that is the formula, then I don't fit in that formula. If that's the recipe, I don't want to cook that. I don't want to be in that kitchen. And that's hard.
I have a lot of, like I said, my parents are older, so like growing up, there were just a lot of older people around me. And so, like, I know a couple of people who are either married or not married who have been together like 20, 30, 40 years. And I just always found it really interesting when people would hear that and they're just like, oh my goodness, that's the type of love I want. Like, I want to be able to grow old with that person. And I'm just like, do y'all see that? Like, I don't know, like the type of things that they go through every day, the type of sacrifices, the type of like, I even think about my parents who I know, like, I don't know if I believe in like soulmates or like there's one person out there that is meant for you, but I do think like they were meant to be together. They were meant to be like coupled in that way. Kind of like what Kim said. I don't seeing, especially like being their child, like, I don't know. I think for me, my fear, I always say this all the time, like my fear is not like death or anything like that. Like that's going to happen inevitably. I think my fear is just like being in a relationship or being coupled or just being in a situation in general where like I wake up one day when I'm like in my older age and be like, what did I do? Or like what did I agree to? Or like what are the things that I like just thinking about like, oh, look, all these things I like sacrificed, or all the things that I just allowed, or ways in which I like shrunk myself, or agreed to things that I wouldn't have agreed to otherwise. And I think a lot of times that does happen in like older hetero like marriages and relationships, So I'm just like, I don't want any of that. Like it's not enough for me to it's not convincing enough for me to be like, oh yes, looking at my partner, yeah, we've been together for 40 or 50 years. If a majority of those 40 or 50 years have been hell for me, like no.
No, I think I'll just add to close off this point that my parents are getting divorced. Like, I thought they were it. And obviously, like, it's come with very new realizations. But at the same time, when I really ask myself this question of, like, is there a couple that I see that I would want to be? It doesn't exist. Like, this is uncharted territory. Like, I'm going to do a new thing that people don't know, like, and that's why it's like 10 times harder, even when you can accept it to yourself. But like when you do it and other people are looking at it, they also are seeing something that is like, what is this? This is crazy. And this is some real vulnerable shit. My grandparents lived in separate bedrooms for all that I knew them. They had their own bedrooms. There was no intimacy. And I'm like, wow, like this is actually the legacy that I come from. And it's like, what do I create now? Like it is a blank canvas. Like I don't know, but I don't want to do that. That's all I know.
I think an obstacle that a lot of us are running into is that we desire intimacy, and because it's fun, I will say for me, it's fun, and being in love is so fun and exciting. But the kind of partnership that would sustain us, that would make us feel fulfilled, is not one that we have a model for or an accessible model for. And so we're going to have to do a lot of innovation and building and customization. And recently, I had a conversation with somebody that I dated for a few months over the summer. And he said, Kim, your problem is going to be finding somebody who wants to do the new thing, finding somebody who wants to build something completely new and different, construct a new model for partnership that they've never seen or experienced, something that you've never seen or experienced. It's going to take a lot for you as a person who dates men to find somebody, and a person who dates Black men, to find somebody who's going to invest themselves in that. And he's not wrong. I totally understand that I want to do something so new and different and off the beaten path that I literally have to find a unicorn, and I don't want to have to do a whole lot of convincing. I don't want to have to sell it to you. I want you from the beginning to say, oh yeah, let's do some new stuff. I have not encountered that yet. And so I think that from what I'm hearing, from what I've seen and experienced, from the conversations that I have, like that's a common obstacle that we're having difficulty surmounting.
I was going to just say that, like, it's funny that you bring that up, Kim. Like, me and my partner are, like, in this past year, are in this space of, like, figuring out, like, what are the things that we like. And I don't know if it's, I remember seeing somewhere, it might have been on TikTok or Instagram, where it's just like the third and fifth and seventh, and maybe there's another year of like your relationship that are like really transformative and make it to where, like, are we moving forward or are we just stopping now? And like this past year, we've had to have like a lot of conversations, a lot of like uncomfortable conversations that haven't always been easy about like, what are the needs that you have? What are the wants? Like when we both got into this relationship, I remember at early on saying to him, like we were asking each other, like, okay, what kind of relationship do you want? And at the time, I was like, I don't know if I have an answer, but I just know that based on past experiences, like, I want to be in a relationship where I feel free and I feel like we can both support each other in doing things as individuals, that we don't get to the point where we're just operating as a couple and we can't leave room to like have new experiences or like do things differently. And I think at the time I'm like, yeah, like saying it all because it sounds good, like when you just say it. And then when the reality comes, it's like, oh shit, like we have to have really difficult conversations and continue having them. And so, like, I wish I had a dollar for every single difficult conversation we've had because neither of us have had any experience with this. So we're all navigating it for the first time. And then, not to sound mushy or whatever, but it's just like, oh yeah, like I love you and care about you as an individual outside of this relationship. And so, like, if there's a way that I can support you in getting a need met or doing something differently, let's figure out like what we can do to talk about it. But again, like we're still in the midst of it, and it's been like a year-long thing of of various topics coming up and various things coming up for both of us. And it also has been like a lot of unlearning. Like I just finished reading this book called The Ethical Slut, and it's been really eye-opening for me in ways where it's just like I've been feeling for a while that I want to like navigate my romantic relationship like differently, but I want to do that in an ethical way and in a way that doesn't feel like I'm forcing someone to do something or trying to like force them to bring along or trying to. And one of the things that like really helped me is just like that is so simple, is just like I feel like communicating and being open to doing things differently and not operating off of like I guess shoulds. That's hard too, because if you've been operating that way for a long time and you don't know anything different, it's like, how do you do that?
I think that if I do ever have a partner, I operate in this idea. Like I already know that I'm like gonna do things differently because of like how I've observed and like been very, I guess, strict, staunch, and like what I will and won't accept. If every individual is a unique person, then the two people coming together would be a unique experience. And so like none of, even like you as a person, from my perception of it, none of your relationships should look the same because you're not the same person you were at like 25 or 27 or 29. So and then you are dating different people who are experiencing different themselves. So I just think that I don't think that something that I think is interesting about the question of like, is there a model? Like, I would say also there is no model for what I want like my partnership to look like, but that's because I would want to create it. Like, and I feel like it's like when B said blank canvas, I'm like, oh, an opportunity to paint. Like, I'm like, okay, that excites me.
That reminds me of, I don't know who said, I feel like it's Shan Boodram. I feel like I'm like butchering her last name. I so apologize. But she had a video that I watched like a long time ago. Like I think I was in college when I watched it, and she was saying like her hopes for her future relationship or relationships or whatever. And she was just like, I want to be able to love someone enough to give them blank pages. And that just like really stuck with me. And I was just like, because I had never heard someone describe love in that way, but it just like, and I know that that might not hit for everybody, but it really did hit for me. And I was just like, that's the way I want to love. Like, and that's the way I want someone to like love me. Like, and I don't know if that's modeled, but like, to your point, like that just might have to be like modeled by myself and whoever I partner with. Yeah.
I really respect for talking about Shan. I actually really respect the way that she seems to approach her relationship. I have really valued them letting us in, Shan and Jared letting us into those conversations. And but what's interesting about that is, I watch her channel a lot, and she was basically talking about how after years of them sharing things about the atypical way that they've navigated their relationship, that her husband no longer wants to be on her channel anymore. That kind of exposure, that opening themselves up about all of these things, these really important, critical, squishy, sometimes kind of icky feelings, that has created some tension that they no longer want to participate in. When you are open about doing things differently, when you're open about, oh, actually, we don't adhere to those gender roles, people descend and they are nasty and judgy, even if you're not an internet person, just in your community, in your family, in your friendships, at your jobs. And so I don't know how we're going to get over that. But I definitely think that there's some people maybe hiding in the dark who are doing things where I might be able to be like, oh, yeah, I identify with that. But I'm just never going to see it.
Like, just to build on it, is that like there are consequences to not following the formula that has been laid out for us. That's why I think a lot of people who jump into marriages and having kids, it's like it is a real choice, because it's like there are real societal benefits to that.
I want to jump to something else here. I think something I have to be really honest about is it's really easy and fun to talk about all of the deficits in your partner or potential partner or pool of potential partners. It's much more difficult to be like, as B was saying earlier, oh, it's me, I'm the problem. And I'm wondering if y'all have had moments when, whether you are potential like dating somebody or in a relationship or experience some kind of hardship where you've realized, oh, actually, I'm the drama, I'm fucking this up right now. Or something that I do quite frequently is not me exposing myself, is in the moment you put it on them, like, oh, they couldn't deal, they're so fucked up, they're maladjusted, they're dishonest, and then you break up or y'all stop talking, and then you reflect back a week later or months later or years later and be like, oh, actually, it was me. Oh, I mean, he did have some problems, but actually, you know what? It was me.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna expose myself. Not that I haven't already, but yeah, like I think about my last few relationships, and um I think for me, I've definitely struggled with trust issues, whether they're valid or not. It's just something that was always a thing for me. Also, I think a lot of times, and this is also kind of why I say I relate to Molly about like that self-sabotaging behavior, because you're worrying so much and overthinking about it so much, it ends up like manifesting itself into the actual fear that you have. And so, like, I think for me, my last relationship like really taught me that, because as I was going through it, it was like kind of like an on and off relationship. I would very thankfully have like my girls who were like holding space for me and being like, it's not you, like, fuck him, like, and, creating a whole line of list of ways that like he got me fucked up, and he's just, all the things that like I needed, I guess, I think initially, you know, but then as like time goes on and you start really like processing like the relationship, you start really processing all the things that you did, and you're like, ooh, like I didn't show up well in this way, or I said I was right but I was really in the wrong, or I let all of these things, all of these like traumas or whatever get in the way of me. I've definitely been there. I think therapy, I'm been a very big advocate of therapy since I started when I was like in high school. And I remember like after my previous breakup, like getting back into therapy and like really trying to navigate where I like messed up, because I think it went from all of these things that he had done to the other spectrum, the other end of the spectrum, to like all of these things I had done, and this is the reason why. And like therapy and like talking about it and processing it really made helped me find like a middle ground to be like, okay, there were two people in this relationship that both contributed stuff, and it's not all on him and it's not all on me. And because we're no longer in this relationship, the only thing I can do now, because I can't go back in time and change anything, is to figure out how I'm gonna fix things for myself and my next relationship moving forward.
So were you the drama? Were you the problem?
Oh, yo, there are some situations, and then when we talk about healing, like the ugliness of healing, like it really is like there would be times where I'm just like, why did I do that? Or why did I, not all situations, but a majority of them was just like, oh, well, it was a response to the way this person was doing stuff, or the way that they were handling things, like kind of like a tit for tat thing. Like, oh, if you're gonna like withdraw, I'm gonna withdraw too. Oh, if you're not gonna like, be communicative, I cannot be communicative. Like it's very just like, like, oh, like not like a Michelle Obama thing where it's just like when they go like low, I go high. It's like, no, you go low, I'm going lower. Like that's what we're doing right now. As I've gotten older, I think I find myself in more nuanced situations, which have been really hard when the relationship ends, because it's just like I remember like after my last break, I'm like, it would have been so easy if there was just something I could pinpoint and be like, he's just a fucking like mess, or he's just like a bad person, or like he doesn't deserve me. But it's like really, but it's so it becomes like really hard to do that, because it's like, no, those things, it's like there's more nuance to it, and there's more like stuff that was going on. So I guess long answer short is that like yes, there were a lot of times where I was the drama, but there were also other times where he was the drama, and then there were just other times where the relationship just itself was like the drama.
This is reminding me of how right now the buzzword, the fake psychoanalytic clinical buzzword that we are hearing all the time is narcissist, and how whenever somebody is recounting a bad experience that they've had in a relationship, somebody harming them in a relationship, they're like, oh, they're a narcissist, they're a narcissist, they're a narcissist. And it's to the point where if I have conversations with people, and I date men, if I have a conversation with a man and he goes, yeah, we broke up because she was a narcissist, like it's instantly a red flag. It feels, there are narcissists out there. I don't think most of us are equipped to diagnose them, but they're out there for sure. But it does feel like an easy way to dodge accountability, to dodge how you participated in a potentially toxic dynamic.
Yeah, like I said, I had a lot of friends for very good, like I think I had like one or two that kind of sat me down and was just like, it's okay to feel all the things. So if you want to blame him, you can do that in this space. If you want to blame yourself, you can do that in your space. Like I was fortunate to have at least one or two friends that were like not, just being like, all right, like let's jump, like let's get in this car, let's get in this plane so we can like go get him and like show him who he messed with. Like I did have some friends that were like, okay, like, let's take a step back and let's look at the situation and what's going on. But I did have a few people who were very quick to like name things that I was just like, oh, that doesn't really, I feel like that doesn't really get at the heart of it, which obviously it wouldn't have because no one was in like the day is in the day to day, you know, of your relationship. So only like you two like kind of know what's going on. But I definitely heard narcissist a lot.
And I think I will say this about like the word narcissistic, just like from the medical profession, is that first of all, psychiatry, where the word comes from, is a very shoddy, dark, anti-black, anti-woman like area of medicine that is still not sure of what it is exactly. Yeah, like they cannot be that many narcissists in society. Like it's even described as like a rarity. It's like a rare phenomena. There's absolutely no way. But I do think that there are obviously like behaviors that like our male counterparts are portraying, and like on sort of like a mass scale that is like, no, something is actually not okay.
Are y'all okay? No. The answer is no.
None of us are okay.
So let's end this on what are your deal breakers? After years of dating experiences, what do you know now that you see it and immediately you're out?
I would say unwillingness to change. I feel like cheating is a very like standard one. A lot of people listen to ignore cheating, but like with my past experience, I just ooh yikes, and then I bounce. But unwillingness to change, and then like just being okay with stagnation is just it's a huge deal breaker for me. Like I don't like seeing, and that's in friendships as well as romantic partnerships. I just don't like seeing people, especially when they're struggling or they're unhappy with themselves. If you're in a constant state of being unhappy with yourself, your partner, and your career choice or whatever, and you're not changing anything, it's just like, oh, why not? Especially when you have the opportunity to do so. It's like, I will be your ear, I will be your shoulder to cry on, but unwillingness to change for romantic partnerships, if when I express my like just not having comprehension skills, like not being able to resolve conflict. That is a huge deal breaker to me. Like, please do not ignite the flame or continue to add to the flame. I do not like that. I am a calm energy. Please do not come at me with that. If I'm expressing, hey, I don't like that you did this, and then what you did that, whoa, what? I don't like that. Comprehend what I'm saying and communicate with me. There is no reason we are full grown adults. There is no reason for us to resort back to kindergarten insults or conversations or levels of comprehension in order to have a conversation. So
Any and all forms of abuse, like not just physical, but like emotional gaslighting. Like, ooh, gaslighting is like a really big one that I feel like I've experienced before. And like, if I peep it, or you know, if I have any inclination that it's happening, I shut it down. Um, I will also say to Deaja's point, like an unwillingness to like grow and change. Like I think that's something really big because like if I'm doing it myself, then I also want to see that you're doing that too, and not just for me or the relationship, but for yourself as an individual. Um, and I think another probably last deal breaker is just like I think just honesty. Like I'm not saying that like you know that if like a white lie or something, whatever is being told or whatever. I think all of us do that in all different types of relationships. But like when it gets to the point where like you're lying to yourself and you're lying about like your needs or your wants or how you wanna or what type of relationship you want or anything like that, I feel like that is very much a deal breaker because I've been in relationships where like the person was just like, well, I just want to kind of like, I'll just do this because you want to do it. And it's just like, no, like, no, like be honest. Like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want? What do you want this thing to look like? Or what do you just want in general? Like, tell me, let me know. And then I guess to say my final deal breaker would be I'm really big on quality time. Like the five love languages, like the quality time is like my number one. And so I always believe that people find the time to do things that they want to do. And I think growing up, especially in my earlier relationships, I would always give excuses to like why someone couldn't like meet my needs in that way, instead of being like, oh, like it's not that they can't, they're just choosing like not to. And that is kind of easy. That's easier to tell myself. And then maybe later on down the road, find out that that isn't true, then keep feeding into the misconception that they really don't have time to like meet my need in that way.
For me, like deal breakers, I, I've experienced men as just being so like inadequate and like boring and uninteresting that just like I don't care. Like, can you have sex? Like, can you, can you talk to me? Can I bounce my idea off your head, like your stupid head, and then I do what I need to do? Like, is my financial situation not gonna be in ruin? And I know that like it seems like underground like standards, but it's like I think I've really come to terms with like where men are at. Like they have not evolved, they are not prepared to evolve, they're not interested in it. And it's like how do I move forward with the things that I want?
Do you feel like you're, because of your views on men, do you feel like you're, I don't know, that you struggle or you feel trapped, or do you ever feel like, oh, I want to like break out of this like binary and like look into like other types of like people or identities, because this isn't like, whenever I hear women talk about that or say stuff like that, I'm just like, obviously like you deserve better. So do you, is it something where you're trying to navigate in a way where it's like, okay, like I need to look somewhere else or do something differently, or are you just kind of like waiting or hoping for like men to get their shit together?
I think for me personally, like obviously I can't speak for anyone else, but I just look at it like I look at capitalism and like white supremacy. Like these things are not going to end in my lifetime. What am I going to do? Like, am I gonna be in despair? Am I gonna be sad? Like, how do I navigate it? Like, these things are not gonna change in our lifetime. They're sad, they're tragic, they're unfair, they affect every aspect of our life, our health, our education, our movement, everything. Like, what do I do in my little tiny lifetime? I'm gonna have fun. I've accepted my conditions in a way, but also like I am creating my world in that I'm curating it. Like if you cannot like eat me out, if you can't have good sex, if you can't take me out on a date, like we can't go on a vacation and have fun and laugh, like then bye. But that's it. Like I'm very clear about my human existence and what I want from it, and I don't think I'll be disappointed from it. Like I'm tired of being angry and frustrated. Like I
Do
don't think.
you want to have children?
Hmm, um, that's another thing. Like I listen, if I have a child, that's the one person that is gonna actually like. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm asking because if you desire to have children, then I guess you have to work through what your relationship with men is going to be. Like, if you are going to engage with the man just long enough, if you want to carry a baby or birth a child, if you're going to engage with men just long enough so that you can have a child, or if you are going to go a different kind of route. Like, I have a lot of empathy for women who really deeply desire children, because you gotta have somebody, not necessarily a man, but somebody with a penis, right? Like somebody with the penis and has testicles and like sperm, like to help you get the process going. And so it's difficult to divest completely.
Yeah, I think that is a tough question. Like, honestly, like, I think if I do have a child, I'll have one and then I will contend with the consequences because obviously it's a inherently selfish choice. Like, and then I'll just suffer on the altar of my child's despair. Like, there's no right answer. There's no, like, yeah, there's no, like, ethical answer to it. There's no ethical answer. If I have a child, it'll be for selfish reasons.
I think men are socialized to be sociopaths. But But is that controversial? But whatever. The reason why I still date men is one, because I have encountered enough men who are good people, not horrible, trying to do their best, maybe not exactly right for me, but just not the archetypal horrible, Tyler Perry villain, or, Kevin Samuel, right? Like that stuff. I've encountered enough of those men to be like, oh, okay, somebody cool might be out there. But also getting back to the self-reflection part, the I'm the drama, I'm the problem part, I have spent enough time reflecting on how I have fucked up situations, how I have broken people's hearts, how I have done honestly really real bad stuff to men, to be like, I've done this stuff and I am still deserving of love and care and affection. Certainly I can, and I'm working to be better and to be a great partner, potentially, that maybe there is somebody out there, right? It helps me give more grace to other people because I'm giving that grace to myself. And so, yes, this pool is real, it's tainted, but the possibility, and this is maybe my I'm fundamentally an optimist. I still believe that in the tainted pool, there is a possibility for me to find somebody who is as committed to not being shitty as I am. Do you think that there is somebody out there in the world who is as committed to being healthy and happy in the ways that you value as you are? I actually think that the idea that people are just not going to be partnered or not have children is actually a minority idea. And I think I have to really check myself again on this, because I live in a silo and talk to, honestly, this is a class thing, a certain class of women who are making this choice, women who have a certain kind of politics. But I think that if we, zoom out and look around, that most women deeply desire partnership and are willing to do a lot of stuff that for me is unthinkable to acquire it. And even if there's a growing number of us who are like setting these hard boundaries, like it's important for me to remember. And again, goes back to like the compassion part, the grace part, that like most people are not there.
I've seen like a trend of TikTok videos, YouTubers coming out. I've seen a lot of videos about it. Oh, Steph Cole talks about it. There are a lot of women that are like, I am nearing my 40s and I am not married and I am not having children. And they are stressed. And there was this one TikTok that I was seeing where this woman was crying in her car about it. And I'm like, I wouldn't have recorded that and put it out there, but I understand why you did, because you are stressed. And I always say to like my best friend, I'm happy I at least have my child because marriage isn't a concern of mine. Like with my friend group, I'm like, a lot of people are in relationships where it's like, maybe we should back away, maybe we should stay in them. But it's like because they're comfortable, they're going to stay in them, even if it's not exactly what they're desiring. Because I'm partnered, my bills are paid, I'm meeting the bare minimum, and I'm semi happy. So
I was gonna say, I think black women need to entertain the idea of like, let's be villains. Like, let's be bad. Like, let's do whatever we want. Like, we don't care about the consequences. Let's get the men we want. Let's break up the marriages. Let's go to the
What?
company. Let's
Wait.
plot and scheme. Like, let's be bad. Like, let's do it because, what have we gained from anything? Like, let's be villains.
Okay. So the top level, I like and appreciate this message. I don't know if I'm not on the let's break up the marriages that way. Let's break up the marriages was one step too far for me. I do think that there is something about the idea, like completely foregoing the idea of being the good girl, completely foregoing the idea of being high-minded, of flying above, of going high when they're going low, of putting yourself first, of being selfish in some instances. I definitely think that that is a valid, valuable political stand. I also think about, though, most people need community, you know? Like, most of us do not have the resources financially, mentally, emotionally to go all in on our villain era because we need other people. Like, we literally cannot survive by ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like I think maybe for me, like I know like growing up, like community was something that was like I don't think my parents, specifically my mother, could stress enough like how important that was for me to be able to like rely on like aunties and uncles and cousins and even like neighbors. Like, you know, like I know not everyone has this experience, but I would have like neighbors, like I would be like riding my bike and my mama would be like, don't go ride on your bike on 43rd Street. And I'd do it and she wouldn't be at home. She'd come home and she's just like, well, Miss Barbara called me and told me that she was, so like actually having like actually like a village like around me growing up, like, or, or just at least having like a few people, something for me that I try to like cognizantly like think about all the time. It's just like, I don't know, I guess like if we can't find those people, like if we can't find those people that we feel that are meeting all of our needs, like B was just like, yeah, like I want a man to like hit all of these things for me, and I don't want to settle for anything less. Like, what do we do in the interim? Like, and how do we get our needs met without like being partnered? Like, how do we continue to do that?
I also do think like we talk about community in almost this like fairy tale kind of way. Like we're not going to church like that. Like you know what I'm saying? Like we're not in the communities that our mothers and our grandmothers were. Like what is actual like real community? People are depressed. People are isolated. Like what is real community? Like not just a talking point, like community where I'm like, I'm depressed, I cannot clean my apartment, who is going to come?
I think that that's real. I think that that's valid. One of the reasons why I decided right after the pandemic to finally move from Oklahoma City to Dallas is because I wanted to be near my family. I wanted to live near my mother. I wanted to live near my sister and her two children. And I was not going to be able to get through the pandemic if I was not able to have regular contact with those people. And actually, the pandemic taught me that the isolation that I had become so used to was not sustainable. I think that this macro thing, like the idea of like, oh, it's hundreds of people gathering together, like old school village, I do think that we are now more atomized where we live, where that's not exactly it. But I will also say, like recently, I've been really deeply investing in making what I would say a community in Dallas, being really intentional about having outings. Like I'm going on, a brunch tomorrow with a group of Black women. I feel better physically, psychologically, mentally after hanging out with women who get me and get it and are fun and are open and want to laugh and make jokes and listen to my stories. That is what, I don't know, it makes a difference for me. But I also understand that other people do not have that experience. And so I can embrace what you're saying.
I live in the Pacific Northwest where like it's very, very different than like the South in ways where like I think just the way that people interact and just being able to like walk out your door and seeing people that like look like you. And so before I moved out here, I knew kind of like to what Kim said, like being intentional about fostering that community because I knew that if I didn't, then I would be moving back home. And there was a time like when the pandemic like happened where like a lot of my friends who had moved out here for like work or whatever were just like, F this, like I'm going back home. Like I'm not struggling out here where I don't have community. Like I'm gonna go back to live with my parents or to like just move back to my neighborhood because I can't, like I know multiple people who were just like severely depressed, like on top of like having to work from home where then you're also isolated like from community. And I always go back to the thing that's keeping me out here is that I have community because if I didn't, I would just move back home because it's just like why struggle when I know I have family and friends and stuff like back home who I know if I'm going through something like they will and like actually be able to like take care of me and like and help me and stuff like that.
So interesting. I think it's really important that you said that, because I think that this is something that comes up time and time again, that maybe community is a privilege, right? Like I have experienced such weird, fucked up stuff in my life where things happened or I made a mistake, and there were people who were happy to extend themselves with no expectation that I would ever be able to return it. I mean, I have a really big family. I've had friends who've done that. I've even had partners. Black male partners. One black male partner who was willing to really extend themselves for me in ways that I probably wouldn't have done it for him. And so that is what makes me hopeful, and that drives my desire to invest in, a community or whatever that is. Yeah, let's table that. That'll be the next conversation. You guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, as we wrap up, let's do parting thoughts, starting with Kina.
It's important to decide what is best for you and operate in that, and then also not being afraid for that to change, because as you evolve, those boundaries, deal breakers, uh, things that you value in a relationship will change. And then, yeah, just creating that for you. And it may not look like everybody else's or anyone else's, and that is okay. And I feel like that's a lot of what I think Black women as a whole across generations have dealt with. And I think millennial generation I feel like it's that first generation that's really trying to like tease that apart and really trying to separate from that and figure out what that looks like.
Go, Deasia.
I could talk about struggle love forever. I've seen a lot of it. But last thoughts are have boundaries when you go into something and do not negotiate on those boundaries. Be firm on them. And like Hina said, do what works for you because what you want is going to be different from what your mother wants for you or what your friends have. So have your boundaries, respect yourself, and yeah.
Man, okay, I'm sorry. Let's just do this real fast and everybody just answer the question in 1 minute. Do you think it's ever appropriate to bend on your boundaries?
Yeah. I was gonna say, no. I was gonna say yes with the qualifier that it depends on what boundary it is.
Really, it's a boundary that you know that if you cross it, you're not going to be happy afterwards, or you're going to be going back like, "Oh, I really shouldn't have did that." Don't cross it. But if it's something that's like, I can work on this one. I started off this way, but I can change. Then yeah, that's it.
To piggyback off of DHR, I was gonna say the same thing. Like there are some boundaries that I have that I'm like, it's not like I'm like, oh, if someone tries to change them, I'm just gonna be really malleable in it. But I understand that like over time my boundaries have changed. So boundaries that I had like a year ago, 5 years ago, like some of those have like altered, changed, look different. And I'm sure moving forward as I grow older, they're gonna look different. So I think yes, depending on the boundary. And I think it's also depending on the person. Like, obviously, my inner circle and the people who know me best are the people that I trust the most. Like, those are the people that I'm going to be reconsidering those boundaries with over someone that I don't know or who doesn't really know me well.
Boundaries are very important, but I do also think that it is part of sort of the buzzword of like the sort of self help psychology of social media of today. And I do think there's a lot of sort of dangers with that we will come to know. But yeah, boundaries are important, but I think discuss it with your therapist who knows your actual life and your story and your situation, because sometimes you could be cutting out your support system, people who love you, and you could be naming that boundaries. Like, who can actually have the say on that except someone who actually knows your actual situation, your actual story?
For me, I would say no to answer the question. But I say that with a caveat as if you're first starting out with forming boundaries. So this is like towards like women who haven't done it before, women who are new to it, younger women. Like, because I feel like when you haven't done it before, if you're too loosey goosey with it, you backslide and you go back and it doesn't. You say boundaries don't work. Da, 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 da. But when you're firm at first and then you can adapt and change and be a little bit more malleable. But I do think it has to start with firmness at up top, kind of like when you discipline a child or when you like, setting rules in a space. Like I think you have to be firm up top, and then as time passes, there may be opportunity for losing them. But I think they're boundaries for a reason. And I feel like you got to trust yourself that I set this in place for a reason. Because in my personal life, whenever I'm like, well, let me just see, I'd be like, stupid. That's why you had that there in the first place, dummy.
Yeah, I think that this is really actually complicated, more complicated and nuanced, right? Because on one hand, I totally agree with you, Kina, that I mean, particularly when we're talking about romantic relationships, that it is important to be firm at the beginning, because it's not going to get better. I don't think that I've never experienced or seen where somebody is lax at the beginning and then they're able to firm up the boundaries in a way that produces something that's healthy. On the other hand, I have, just personally been in reflective of ways that I have erected barriers or walls, and I thought that they were boundaries. But those barriers and walls were like actually not serving me. They actually were not helpful. They were trauma responses. Okay.
Am
Again,
I the
thank you.
drama? Like, am I the
Yeah.
problem?
Yeah, am I the problem? For sure. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Again, thank you so much to the panelists, B, D, Asia, Kina, and Christina. I so appreciate them, their openness, and their candor. I do have to go back and reflect on the opening of this video. It was a little heteronormative because I am a cisgender heterosexual woman who dates men. But of course, all of this stuff can apply to any gender, any kind of relationship. I think we're all just trying to do our best to navigate loving and being loved. I think the next conversation is going to be about community because, this comes up a lot. Again, shout out to the new merch. This is the Are Y'all Okay? It's available now. The link is going to be down below. I'm always open for suggestions. Hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. Send me a DM, send me an email if there's something that you would like a panel to talk about next or in the future. How'd you feel about this conversation? Reflect, react. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.